From the Arizona Daily Star and Tucson.com, this is the Wildcast.
Hello, welcome to another episode of the Wildcast podcast. Justin Spears here with Arizona Football Insider, Michael Lev, and sports editor Ryan Finley. And guys, I got a surprise for you. This is actually a very big podcast because for the first time this football season, the Wildcast will be aired on ESPN Tucson during the last hour of Spears and Ali for Bear Down Friday from 5 to 6. So while this is available on the Wildcaster app and the Wildcast podcast platform on Apple or Spotify, we're also going to be live on ESPN Tucson. Nice. Like we're live right now. So we technically.
So no casual swearing?
No casual swearing, guys.
Gotcha. Okay. Michael?
I accept Venmo, Zelle, various forms of payment.
Get those NIL checks.
Will we have to promo things that are coming up next on ESPN Tucson?
No.
Okay.
No.
Good.
We'll just.
When's Diamondbacks pregame?
I don't know. I think. Trying to think of who they're playing on this Friday. All right, guys. So we have lots to discuss here. We're going to go into over-unders for the game on Saturday between Arizona and Colorado. We're also going to have our Pac-12 picks and also predict Arizona versus Colorado. So Wildcats are 2-2 right now. They go into this week heavy favorites against the Colorado Buffaloes. What was the latest spread? I've seen it between like 17.5, 18.5. It's kind of just been teetering between those two.
I've been monitoring this pretty closely because, as you said, it's unusual around here, and the latest Vegas consensus is 17.5.
17.5.
Yeah.
Well, regardless, it's the most that the Wildcats have been favored by since, dare I say, NAU. I think it's the first time they've been favored since the NAU game in which they lost. But if we're just talking about Pac-12 play, it's the first time they've been favored since the 2019 homecoming game against Oregon State. As we all know, it was the game after they fired defensive coordinator Marcel Yates. And it's actually the highest that they've been favored in a Pac-12 game since Oregon State in 2014. So
wow.
I think they were like 16.5-point favorites against the Beavers then. So kind of foreign territory for Arizona considering how the last few years have gone. But what's your assessment of Arizona through the first 4 games of the season, and how do you think they stack up against Colorado? Because I think it's safe to say that while offensive line has been probably the biggest question mark going into this season, they've kind of been steadily progressing. Meanwhile, rushing defense has definitely been a very big concern for Arizona.
Yeah, they've been up and down. I think it's reflected in the record being 2-2. They have, I think, played pretty well offensively throughout. The only knock I would kind of put on the offense is sometimes, Jaden DeLora has tried to play that hero ball in situations where it wasn't necessary. I would put that under the umbrella of game management. When you're a super talented and competitive athlete like Jaden is, and you're able to make some amazing plays, I'm sure there's something in his mind that tells him, I can do this. No matter how grim things look on a given play, I can make something happen. And I think he's learning that you don't always have to do that. You can live to play another down. Jed referenced, how those interceptions at the end of the game last week were on first and second downs. And even if you're down by 11 points, which I think what they were in those situations, you don't have to do that.
Yeah.
Especially the first one to T-Mac. Like, throw it into the sideline and go to third down. They could have kicked a field goal there and been within a score. Defensively, they're kind of, I wouldn't say up and down. I think they've been trending down. And that's pretty worrisome.
Yeah. To me, it's funny. I'm not going to let sort of recency bias affect the fact that I think they're probably one win better than most people would have pegged them at this point in the season.
Yeah.
I think that this season has to be viewed so far as a success. Obviously, there are some troubling trends, like Michael said, that came up last week with Cal. Right? You wonder, my goodness, what happens when they play a team with a really good running back or a really good offensive line, right?
Yeah.
That said...
But Cal didn't have a good offensive line.
I know. Well, we didn't think so, did we?
That's exactly right. Yeah, that's his point.
Yeah, like what happens when they start playing... what happens when they have to play Oregon? What happens when they have to play USC? To me, that's sort of the those are questions for next week and the week after that.
Yeah.
To me, this is a team that's sort of one game ahead of schedule and with a chance to win again on Saturday. I mean, had I told you in June that Arizona would be 3-2, I think into a home game against Oregon, I think you would have taken that.
Yeah.
So
I wrote it at the very end of last week's 5 takeaways that you can see a path to 5 wins this year, right? You beat Colorado, which they should do.
Right, that's 3.
You beat ASU at the end of the season. ASU is reeling, heading in the wrong direction, doesn't have a coach, winnable game. And then you pull off an upset somewhere along the way, and what looks like it's a gauntlet. Let's face it. I mean, it's a really, really tough stretch of games.
Washington State is also considered an upset because of how good they look this year.
Sure.
Right? You consider Washington State
it would be.
at home?
I'm throwing that in with everybody else. Yeah. That is a 6-game stretch there is brutal. But you figure one of those teams along the way is going to have an injured quarterback, or they're going to have a letdown week or something where Arizona could jump in there and pick them off. So if you go and look, they might lose Saturday, so who knows? But if you go 5-7 in year 2 after 1-11, after 0-5, after the 20-game losing streak, that is without a doubt progress.
I'll take it one step further. I think if Arizona can win on Saturday, right, they'd improve to 3-2. I'm not sure they would necessarily have to win again until ASU. If you could finish 4-8 with a win at home against ASU in your final game, I mean, people would storm the field. As strange as that sounds, for 2 teams that probably will have losing records. Again, if you could win 4 games and beat ASU, I think that's probably better. I mean, it's a game and a half better than what Las Vegas thought they would do this year, right? Yeah. I mean, Arizona's already hit they can on Saturday hit the over for number of wins this year, which was 2.5. So, again, I mean, the Cal stuff brought up a lot of kind of disturbing trends defensively, especially. You worry about Jayden de Laura's ability to not turn the ball, or to turn the ball over, not turn the ball over. But outside of that, I think it's been a pretty promising month. Mm-hmm.
Well, I also think in the Cal game, Arizona didn't do a really good job of playing complementary football. Right. They kind of got what we say on radio, people getting high on their own supply, drinking too much of the Kool-Aid. The passing game really opened up in the second quarter, and Arizona was like, wow, this is working. We're going to keep doing this because, hey, if it's not broken, we're not going to fix it. And then Cal came out with a great defensive game plan, Justin Wilcox being a great defensive mind that he is, and Arizona was throwing the ball a lot, and they were getting off the field and throwing their defense back on the field. And when your defense is playing against a North Dakota State and you come back and you're on the road playing against a tough run team in Cal, I think Arizona just kind of got bogged down in that game, and it definitely showed. And Johnny Nansen's, he shouldered responsibility. He was like, listen, I'm going to take full responsibility for this. I didn't put guys in the right position. And it kind of made it seem like the guys were also mentally bogged down too, because he referenced simplifying things. It's like, man, you don't really hear too much a defensive coordinator talking about simplifying things through 4 games of the season.
Well, they were exhausted, weren't they, Michael? I mean, that was my takeaway, was they seemed gassed.
I felt that way. They
physically and mentally.
They disputed that idea, but I've theorized that could have been in play. And why would he say that they needed to simplify things? It's because when he looked at the film, he saw all these mental mistakes too. Yeah. They talk all the time about eye discipline. Where are your eyes, and where your eyes go, that's kind of where your body goes after. And they're overrunning plays. By huge margins, 1 cutback, and where is everybody? You're kind of where is everybody? And there's 2 and 3 guys in one gap and nobody in another gap. So that's what they've been working on this week. I definitely appreciated Johnny Nansen falling on the turnover sword, if you will.
I see what you did there.
A lot of coaches, they won't shoulder the blame. They'll
not
always
first year guys.
Yeah, they'll call out the players, or they'll blame execution or whatever, and he didn't do that. He's like, I got to coach better, I got to put them in a better position. So now, a little bit of a spotlight on Johnny. He's kind of gotten he's the honeymoon period's over, I would say, for him, and people are going to look at what he's doing, what that side is doing, with a more critical eye, and we'll see how he does.
By the way, back to your point, Ryan, about 4 wins and then a win against ASU would be a huge success in year 2 of the Jed Fish era. I totally agree with you because think about like the Mike Stoops era. Wasn't his very first year? Didn't they beat ASU?
Yeah. So right. So Mike Stoops went 3-8, 3-8 his first 2 years here. At the end of his first season, Arizona beat ASU in the regular season finale.
Yeah.
They injured Andrew Walter, who was ASU's quarterback. Big comeback at the end of the game. People stormed the field, and that became sort of a springboard for what Mike Stoops was trying to do here. The recruits who they had on campus that day ended up choosing Arizona. They proved that they could beat what was then a pretty good team at home.
Yeah.
And again, I just think we need to be realistic here. This is a team that has won before this season 1 game in the previous 2 seasons, right? Combined.
Yeah.
I think that just because they had some success early doesn't mean they're going to win 6 or 7 games. But we can certainly see that this is an improved team, Michael. And I think they have better players on both sides of the ball. We're judging them on a little bit of a steeper curve now because they've proven that they've had some success.
So now, moving forward, the challenge is, can you get more good players at positions that aren't as easy to get?
Yes.
It's, all due respect to the quote-unquote skill position players, they're probably the easiest things to acquire. They're in the most abundant supply. Running backs, wide receivers, especially on the West Coast. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Anytime somebody says "with all due respect," they're about to say something very disrespectful.
So now can you draft? Can you recruit offensive linemen? Right. Can you recruit defensive linemen? Linebackers. I mean, clearly they need linebackers. Like Jerry Roberts, you talk about someone who's gassed. He's playing too many snaps. Right. I know what he said the other day. Like, I don't want to come off the field. All that kind of business. He's playing too many snaps. I think he's got too much responsibility. And the guys, who are immediately behind him or next to him, you've got Eamon Allen, who is a converted safety. You have Colby Cage, who is a converted safety. They're both 210, 215 pounds. I mean, this is not what you want in a Pac-12 linebacker. Not to disrespect those players, but you're asking an awful lot of them. And then the other guy is your 5'10" true freshman from Mater Dei.
I was gonna say fun size Jerry Roberts.
Yeah, yeah, right, exactly. So I mean, that's a position where they've got to bring in some dudes, And I would say, you're going to lose your safeties too, probably after this year. For sure, Christian Young, he's out of eligibility. Jackson Turner, he could go pro. And Isaiah Taylor might end up starting at free safety. That's not the position he played in high school. He was more of a box safety. So there's certain types of defenders that they need that they don't have right now that they're going to have to bring in either through traditional recruiting or the portal.
Yeah, and maybe this is a question for another podcast, but Michael, Jed Fish has been selling the chance to play right away. That's a lot of it, right? Somebody like a Tetairoa McMillan comes in and is playing immediately from day one. What do you sell when you can't sell that anymore, right? I mean, when now there's going to be competition to come and fight for a starting spot. To me, that's going to be a challenge of theirs going forward, which is...
that would be a great position to be in, though.
It's a good problem to have. I can't tell you the last time Arizona had that problem.
I would say this. They're going to have more guys drafted this year, I think, than in a while. And you can start to sell that. Yeah. Like, hey, we've got NFL coaches in our building. We can help you get to the NFL. And that is something that Arizona has not been able to sell for years and years and years because they've been so poor when it comes to producing NFL talent. I mean, Jordan Morgan, he might be their highest pick this year. When was the last time an Arizona offensive line was drafted? Was it Evan Britton?
Evan Britton.
Like 09?
Yeah.
Is that right?
08 maybe? Yeah.
I mean, we're talking a decade plus drought of having a single offensive lineman drafted to the NFL.
Yeah.
I was at his draft party. It's a story for a different podcast. Anyway, go ahead.
Was there something funny smelling in the air?
No, not even that. This was, I don't know if he had discovered that yet. No, it was, he tumbled in the draft and got angrier and angrier and angrier. Mm. And I believe he said that he couldn't wait to go do various things to all the teams that passed on him. And that was the interview. And
wow.
I believe I received a very polite phone call the following morning being like, could could you put in there that I'm also very excited to play for the Jaguars? So
He was a second-round pick.
I know. He thought he was a first-round pick. I thought he was a first-round pick. He was the best offensive lineman in the league that year.
Yeah.
That was 2009.
Yeah.
He went with 39th pick overall.
Yeah.
He's from Brooklyn?
Yeah, from Brooklyn. Well, okay. See, now we're going down a wormhole.
Let's go.
Okay. Do you know the woman who plays Roseanne's mother on Roseanne, or played Roseanne's mother on Roseanne?
Not offhand.
She was in the movie Bonnie and Clyde.
Okay.
Okay. Anybody?
No.
Okay. Evan Britton's grandma. Anyway.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there we go. So he's born in Brooklyn, but raised in Los Angeles.
I see.
Much around,
Burbank, okay.
very much around Hollywood stuff.
Got it. Okay.
Bev, you don't know Roseanne?
I love Roseanne.
Okay, Bev.
Yeah.
Okay, her crazy mother who comes to town.
I don't know all the characters. I just know Roseanne, Darlene.
Ryan's a big he likes Roseanne, Golden Girls.
I just watch TV. Old TV.
It's good era of television. But also, going back to the whole, you can have a losing record, but as long as you beat ASU, I think from a broad perspective, from an Arizona fan would say, hey, that's all we really care about is Arizona beating ASU. And like I go back to that 2016 season, they went 3-9, then they clobber ASU at home. That's all everybody ever remembers about that season.
And then you're building for the next year, right? I also think that if you beat ASU with a bunch of freshmen and sophomores, not only is there a reason that day to celebrate, but there's reason to look ahead to next year and go, okay, well, next year they'll be even better. And again, that's very realistic, and it's as much because ASU is terrible as anything Arizona has done. But, and I'm not saying that Arizona should lose the next 7 games just to prove our point. But, if you can beat Colorado and then beat ASU, that's an okay season based on expectations.
It is. I would agree, but you'd also have a 6-game losing streak in the middle of that.
Sure, it's also kind of loser
which
talk.
would feel like, things are maybe regressing. Yeah. So, like I said, if you can pull off one upset in there, then also beat ASU at the end of the season, now you've got a lot of positive vibes and a lot of legit momentum going into 2023.
And that's where the Cal loss, I think, took a little bit of the air out. Had they beaten Cal last week, all of a sudden you're talking about stealing one, beating ASU, and then you're in
a bowl.
You're in a bowl
game.
Then you're rolling deep to Albuquerque or some Frisco, Texas.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, then Jed Fish is the Pac-12 Coach of the Year, right? Yeah. Now I think asking them to steal 2 to beat Colorado, ASU, and then steal 2 more games. I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah, but then you also send guys into the NFL, and you can kind of use the history of Arizona, the recent history or lack thereof, of guys not going in the NFL draft and say, hey, look, year 2 of our regime, look how many guys we turned into pro prospects.
Right.
And then you can double down for 2023, whether it's through high school prospects or the transfer portal.
Right.
So
and
this season is really a launching pad into the next year and the year after that.
This is year 1, right? Last
year
was year 0.
I didn't know year 0 was a thing. Also, you know what? This is what happens when you rip a house down to the studs. Patience is required when you're rebuilding, and when you're rebuilding it the right way. I will give Jed Fish a ton of credit. If Jed Fish wanted to win 4 games a year ago, he could have gone out and signed 15 junior college transfers, right? If he wanted to win 5 or 6 games this year, he could have brought in bad dudes or cast-offs. And he's not really doing that. To me, to do it right, it takes some time. And I think what we can say through the first third of Jed Fish's second season is that they appear to be trending in the right direction. And that's exciting because I think maybe you're looking at next year and the year after as the year in which they really take off.
All right, guys, now let's move on to over-unders for Saturday night between Arizona and Colorado. All right, I'm setting the rushing yards, Arizona 323.5. Because
I know why you're doing this.
Because the Colorado Buffaloes are giving up 323 rushing yards per game this season.
I'm going to take the under.
Under?
Yeah, on 323. Look, that would require, I think, Jed kind of really, truly committing to just running the ball down their throats and sticking with it. And he likes to throw the football. He likes to get those super talented receivers they have involved. I can see this being a game, if things go well, where they're at like 250 and 250. Yeah. And that would be a dream scenario for Jed and this offense.
1,000 feet of rushing per game. Yeah, no, gotta take the under.
You gonna take the under?
Gotta take the under. Come on.
I'm gonna be different here. I'm gonna go with the over. I think Michael Wiley gets over 100 yards. Arizona gets another 100-yard rusher. Jaden DeLora flirts with 100 yards.
Jamari Joyner starts at quarterback. They just run Wildcat the whole time.
Hey, run the damn ball. One thing that you can do in a get-right game at home is just run the damn ball. Give Jaden DeLora the night off.
Hey, what position did you play in high school, Justin?
Center.
There we go.
Downhill, baby. Run the damn ball. All right. How about Dorian Singer touchdowns? Star wide receiver has yet to find the end zone this year.
Is this a weekly thing now? Okay.
I'm going to put it at 0.5.
Yeah,
once again.
I'm going over again.
Me too.
It's just, look, he almost had one in the back of the end zone. A play that, I mean, when I watched it, that kind of simultaneous possession, that looked like a touchdown to me.
Yeah.
And that's why they got a delay of game on the next play, because they were trying to figure out the same thing. So I think he's due. He's played at a really high level. He has shown like multiple different skills, like running after the catch. He's made contested catches. He's a really good ball player, and statistically, he's going to regress to the mean in this regard. He should have a touchdown or two already, and he's going to get one on Saturday.
I agree.
I agree. Look at this. All of us agreeing on this. I mean, yeah, he's not enough is said about him, guys. I think that he is, for how many times have we said the name Tetairoa McMillan in the last 3 months?
Jacob Cowing, yeah.
Or Jacob Cowing, understandably so. Dorian Singer has more than twice as many catches as T-Mac, right?
Yeah.
He has more yards than T-Mac. He's a very good football player who I think in any other year we would brand as maybe the best player on the team. But he happens to share a position group with the real best player on the team, Jacob Cowing, and the top-rated freshman Arizona's ever had. So, yes, this is Dorian Singer's week.
All right, how about, you mentioned T-Mac, how about T-Mac the tight end, Tanner McLaughlin?
T-E-Mac.
Yeah, he had a great game against the Cal Golden Bears. The most yards for a tight end in a game since Jamie Nunley in 2017. Before then, you got to go to the Rob Gronkowski era.
Okay.
So great game for Tanner McLaughlin, the Southern Utah transfer who rehabbed his ACL injury through YouTube in the offseason. Fantastic story. I'm putting his over-under for yards at 75, over-under.
I'm going to take the under.
I'm going to take under too.
Yeah, that's a high bar to clear. He certainly could do it, but you're asking an awful lot to repeat that type of performance. Now, that being said, Jed did say that when we were talking about Tanner's performance, that there was another 25 yards or something like out there that were missed by the quarterback in that last game. So I've been really impressed with him. His athleticism, he seems like just a very natural pass catcher. His blocking is decent as well, and he's just leapfrogged those other guys really unexpectedly.
I also appreciate his leapfrogging ability. He got up pretty high in that.
We're going to run that photo. We're going to run that photo as many times as we possibly can
of
him.
Incredible. Yeah.
And that hit too was on the bad leg. Like we're kind of right below the knee brace, and he's okay, which is also a good sign.
All right, how about Jaden DeLora rushing yards? 50.5, over, under.
I'm going to take the
You're
under.
gonna take the under?
Yeah, I'm going to take the under on that one. Really? I mean, 50 is a lot for a quote-unquote like non-rushing quarterback, If he'd have to have a long run in there to clear that bar, like a 30-yard run or something. And Arizona hasn't had a lot of 30-yard runs this year by anyone, so no, I'll take the under.
I think to say that he would have great rushing yards would imply that Colorado has a good pass rush and that he'd be scrambling. And I'm not sure he's going to be made that uncomfortable in the pocket. So I'll take the under. I mean, I think he's going to settle in and throw to open receivers and try to caretake as best as he can.
You mentioned how Arizona doesn't have a lot of splash plays this year, but they never played against a defense like Colorado. So I like my chances with North Dakota State against the Colorado Buffaloes or even San Diego State.
Oh, yeah.
So with that being said, I'm going to go with the over, like Jaden DeLora, making splash plays with his legs. All right, real quick, guys. Combined mentions of Khalil Tate's 2017 game, the 2019 win, which then ended in or then was followed up by the losing streak. And then Kadeem Carey's record-breaking game in 2012. Combined altogether, those 3 games, 3.5.
Oh, over.
Over?
I think it might go over too, just because if this game goes the way we think it will, they're going to have a lot of time to fill in the second half of that
Let's
game.
talk about
They're going to
Kadeem
have
Carey from 10 years ago.
Yeah, they're going to have to come up with topics to discuss.
Max Brown's a pro.
So I could see that one going over. I mean, that Khalil game was something we'll be talking about for a long, long time.
Yep.
It always seems like there's some sort of crazy offensive exploits that happen when Arizona faces Colorado, except for last year, which was a different story. But, yeah, I'll take the over.
I'll take the under. Just once at the beginning of the broadcast, and then they'll probably find time to talk about how great Jacob Cowing and all the other skill players are for Arizona. All right, so with that being said, now let's move over to everyone's favorite segment, Pac-12 Pick'ems. We're going to take a look at the Pac-12 schedule and then also predict the Arizona-Colorado game coming up this Saturday. All right, guys, let's take a look at the records here. I think
we have to?
I'm still top dog.
I'm all for this. Yes.
So Ryan Finley has made a great comeback. This past week was great to him. He is now just a notch below me on the leaderboard. I'm 18-4, 15-7 against the spread. And Ryan, what are you?
I'm 17-5, 14-8 against the spread.
Yeah,
11?
16-6 straight up, 9-13 against the spread.
Remember last
Fell
week?
back.
Remember
Yeah.
last week when you were just trying to make moves, basically?
Yeah, that was dumb.
Yeah.
I shouldn't have done that.
Played yourself.
Yeah, it's to another 2-4 week. But hey, it's a long season. We're just in week 2 of Pac-12 play. Plenty of time to catch up.
Well, let's see if you catch up this week,
Yep.
Lev. Starting with the Friday night game,
Good one.
Washington versus UCLA.
Really good one.
Now the Huskies are 2.5-point favorites in this game, and they come in as the number 15th ranked team in the country. I will start this off, guys. I'm going with the Bruins to pull off an upset special at the Rose Bowl because you know what? Weird things seem to happen Friday nights in the Pac-12. And this is a game where a highly ranked top 20 team in the conference goes down, and they go down on the road. How many people are going to be at this game on a Friday night in Los Angeles? I don't know. I'm willing to bank a lot of Husky fans are going to be down there in L.A. enjoying it. But with that being said, I'm going with UCLA to win.
I'm going to go off on 2 quick tangents here. Number one, when is a good time to play a game at the Rose Bowl? No one's coming during the day on Saturday. No one's coming at night on Friday. It's Saturday night, I guess. Is that the one good time where we get a lot of people there?
Are you suggesting that they should get their own Snapdragon Stadium, 30,000 people there? Is that what you're
That's the Troy Aikman plan.
Yeah.
Sure. I'm in favor of that. And then my second tangent is the Pac-12 or 10 or 14 or whatever should do a deal as part of their next media negotiations with Amazon or Apple and have a regular Friday night football game and carve out that corner.
Agree completely.
That's their corner.
Agree completely. Yes.
You got to distinguish yourself. As far as this game goes,
All about it.
I am glad that the line you're citing is 2.5. I'd seen it at 3.5 earlier in the week, and that worried me a little bit. But I'm going to take Washington. I know the Huskies have not played away from Seattle yet this year, but there's no home field advantage for UCLA. As you cited, UCLA has played one of the weakest schedules of any Power 5 team. I really like the way Michael Penix and that offense are playing. I don't think he's been sacked this year, which is pretty amazing. And I really like what Kalen DeBoer has brought to that program, so I'm going to take the Huskies to win and cover.
Yeah, I agree. Actually, history, our colleague John Wilner had something that ran in the Star earlier this week about how Friday night games typically favor the home team. That teams that have to prepare on short notice usually struggle. That said, I think that this is sort of the exception that proves the rule. I think Washington's a better team. UCLA has struggled basically in every game this year,
Except last week.
Except last week. Fine, except last week when they played Colorado. Exactly.
Yeah, no.
But I mean, this is a team that struggled with Bowling Green. This is a team that struggled with South Alabama, I believe. I'm not buying them. I'm just not buying them. And I've seen enough of Washington to know that they're good. And so give me the Huskies.
All right, now moving on to the next game, starting off the Saturday slate at 11 a.m. Oregon State versus Utah. The Utes are now number 12 in the country. Oregon State coming off their tough loss to USC the week before. I'm going to start this off because the spread is Utah -10. I think Oregon State showed us that they can compete with anybody in the Pac-12, even Utah. And I know that the game is in Salt Lake City. It's going to be tough playing away from Corvallis, but offensive line play travels. Jim Halchek is the best in the business. And with that being said, I like Oregon State going toe-to-toe with Utah. Are they going to win? No. But I like the Beavers to cover. So give me the Utes to win, but Oregon State to cover the 10 points.
Yeah, I'm with you on this one. I've got the same. A little concerned about kind of a hangover from the disappointment of that USC game. But I also think they can look at it and be like, hey, we should have won that game. If we don't turn the ball over as much as we did, we probably do win that game. They completely bogged down an offense that everybody thought was unstoppable. I really like Utah coming into the season. I still like Utah. They did lose Brant Keithy, who's maybe the most unique tight end weapon on the West Coast for the season. So that's a blow for them. And I can see this game being sort of similar to last week's game, kind of in that 17-14, 20-17 range. In which case, take the 10 points, Utah to win, Oregon State to cover.
I'm going to disagree with both you guys. I like Utah. I think they're the best team in the league right now. They're at home against an Oregon State team that I think is kind of, for lack of a better term, kind of poor man's Utah, trying to do what Utah does. Utah just does it better. So I think the Utes win by 2 touchdowns. The Utes don't lose at home ever, and they're pretty good at covering. So give me Utah.
All right, Cal versus Washington State at 2:30 p.m. The Cougs are 4-point favorites over the Golden Bears at the Palouse. Washington State, man, that was a tough loss. Tough loss against Oregon. They had them on the ropes. It kind of reminded me of, was it the race between Paul Walker and Vin Diesel in Fast and the Furious when Paul Walker tells him, man, dude, I had you. And Vin Diesel says, had me? You never even had your car. So Washington State, man, it was a very tough loss for them. But with that being said, I like them at home. 4 points. I like them to not only win, but I like the Cougars to demolish the Golden Bears. I think their defense stops Cal's rushing attack, limits Jaden Ott, and I'm going to go with the Cougars to win by a couple of touchdowns.
Yes, I agree for all the reasons that you say. Did you see how Washington State covered last week?
Was it the pick six at the
end?
No.
Washington State covered by throwing a 60-yard Hail Mary
with like 3 seconds left.
With like 3 seconds left, yeah. and then running to the line and scoring as time expired.
Yeah.
For a lot of people paying attention to that game, they were heartbroken. I think that they win and cover this week. Again, just because Cal looked great against Arizona, I'm not sure means that Cal's any good. So give me the Cougars at home in the Palouse.
I'm going to also go with the Cougars, despite the fact that Chris Felica, the Bear from ESPN, noted how good Justin Wilcox has been as an underdog in his career. 24-9 against the spread.
Wow.
As an underdog. 13 outright wins as an underdog. However, I think Washington State is going to be really fired up and motivated and angry after what happened last week. Like you said, a game that they let slip away. They were in control pretty much throughout and just kind of fumbled it away at the end. Did come back to cover, unfortunately, for some of us. But you said 3.5, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I wish it were 3. I'd feel better about it, but I'm still going to stick with the Cougars to win and cover in that one.
All right, now moving on to ASU versus USC. The Trojans are 25-point favorites over the Sun Devils. You know what? I made my mistake in choosing ASU to cover last week's spread against the Utah Utes. That was at home in Tempe. I think that they're more comfortable with Sean Iguanos now going into their second week with him as their interim coach. But with that being said, I think that this is going to be a game where USC just throws all over ASU's defense. This team really has no identity. They're kind of lifeless right now, kind of like Colorado. So I'm going to go with USC to win. And you know what? I'm going to throw a Hail Mary here. I'm going to go with USC to win and cover by 28 points.
28 is just a big number for any football team with pride.
25?
25 points.
Oh,
25.
25 points. So I'm going with USC.
28. Okay. 25.
No, it's 25-point spread, but I'm going with USC to win by 28.
Gotcha.
So give me the Trojans to win and cover.
This doesn't change my opinion. I think 25 is a huge number for any team with pride. I think that for a team like ASU, which recruits very heavily from LA, this game is going to matter to their players. I don't think that it's going to be enough to win, but my goodness, you should be able to cover 25 points in a conference game. So give me SC to win, ASU to cover.
I'm going to go with USC to win and cover.
There we go, Lev.
I'm like Justin. I feel dumb for falling for whatever was happening last week with the coaching change and how that could maybe serve as a catalyst for the Sun Devils. I'm just not seeing it for them. There's also some rumblings that they might be changing quarterbacks and benching Emory Jones for Trenton Bourget.
Ooh, Marana Tiger.
Local kid.
Man.
I don't know whether that's a net positive or negative, but I do know that USC is going to want to prove that their offense is legit after it got, really bogged down in Corvallis last week. I think they're going to go up and down the field, put up a huge number, maybe 50, and win this one easily. So I'm going to take USC to win and cover.
8 p.m. game, Stanford visiting the Oregon Ducks. Oregon coming off their big win over Washington State. They are 17-point favorites over the Cardinal.
God, that's tough.
It's a big number, but it's in Eugene. It's a late-night game. Stanford stinks. So I'm going to go with the Ducks to win and cover by 3 touchdowns.
Man, I think I have to jump off the Stanford bandwagon.
41-20. That's your final score.
Sprain an ankle or injure a groin in the process. They just haven't gotten it done. I mean, maybe this will be that weird game where Oregon just kind of goes through the motions at home. Kind of saw that against Arizona a bit last year. But I think even if they do that, they can still cover. I know 17 sounds like a big number, but Vegas usually knows what they're doing. So I'm going to go with the favorites again here, win and cover.
Yeah, Oregon had to kind of pull it out of the fire last week to beat Washington State. I'm not sure that I've decided that they're an elite level team just yet. I'm going to take Oregon to win. I like Stanford to cover. Again, the way Stanford plays, I think that they're going to try to shorten up the game. I don't think they have a chance in heck of winning, but I think they can cover 17.
This could be a separation Saturday for Ryan Finley. If things go his way, he could easily jump to the front here.
All I need are 2 of the worst teams in the Pac-12 to cover. That's all I need.
And with that being said, the worst team of the Pac-12, Colorado, is coming in and playing against the Arizona Wildcats. Saturday, 6:30 p.m. kickoff on the Pac-12 networks. You can follow our coverage on Tucson.com and the Wildcaster app. But guys, 17.5 points now for the Arizona Wildcats, according to DraftKings. That's the website that I'm using. But man, it's been going back and forth between 17.5 and 18.5. But I'm going to put it right here at 17.5 for Saturday night. Who do you like to win?
I'm taking the Wildcats to win and cover. I know what happened last year, but they don't talk about last year. It's almost like it didn't happen.
What does Brendan Carroll say?
Yeah,
it's all 2022, brother.
I'm on to 2022, brother.
He says it's so cool.
Colorado has got a true freshman quarterback making his second career start who looks like he's like 14 years old.
This is Josh McCown's kid.
Who
I incorrectly said last week was Cade McNown's kid.
You were
Go
close.
Ahead. Okay.
McNown. Son of a former recent quarterback, very recent. I mean, Josh McCown was playing just a couple years ago.
Yeah.
In the league, they don't run the ball well. They don't stop the run. If you look at their stats, they don't give up a lot of passing yards, but I think that's because teams have been so far ahead of them that they haven't needed to pass the ball. As we have talked about throughout the week, they lost a ton of guys in the portal who are contributing significantly to other programs around the country. They are at a talent deficit. Their coach is on the hot seat. There's just a lot of factors here working against the Buffaloes. They also have some key injuries, some recognizable names who probably won't play in this game, including their tight end Brady Russell, right? Who feels like he's been around for like 12 years.
He and Keithy are each like 23 or something.
Or 27. Anyway, so I'm going to take Arizona to win and cover. I've got the Wildcats 45, Buffalo's 20, which also would put it, I think, over the total, which is what, like 50?
57.
Yeah, okay.
57.
Yeah, so I'm over as well.
Okay. I'm going to go with Arizona to win and cover. And I think that this is the game that officially ends the Carl Durrell era. Because don't the Colorado Buffaloes have a bye week next week?
They have a bye, and then they play Cal and at
Yes.
Oregon State. Yes.
So, I think Carl Durrell is he's a nice guy. He's obviously had stints at a number of places, formerly coached at UCLA. I like Carl Durrell as a person, but not as a football coach. And I think that Colorado's athletic director, or whoever's in charge of administration,
George.
they're going to take a look at this game and say, wow, Arizona kicked our butts 34-0 last year, 38-0, whatever the final score was. And this was a team that was 1-11 last year, and they turned it around and completely turned the script and beat our butts. I think that maybe Colorado's like, well, Carl Durrell had a head start on this much faster than Jed Fish, and look what he's done. We need to get a guy like that in here to make Colorado relevant again. And I think that this is the game where Arizona puts the final nail in the coffin of the Carl Durrell era. Give me the Wildcats to win. I'm going to go 42-14.
Makura make Colorado relevant again. When your AD releases a statement in the middle of the season, the vote of confidence statement that begins with, like all of you, I have been disappointed to watch our football team struggle this fall. And it also includes, I want you to know that I hear you, I recognize and understand your disappointment and frustration and perhaps even anger. That's not a good sign for not a good sign for the head coach.
And then say, continue to support us. So what I take from that is, hey, support the football team so you can give us your money and then we can use that as a buyout for Carl Durrell.
By the way, remember Kyle DeVan?
Yeah.
Colorado's offensive line coach. Anyway.
Wow, throwback.
Kyle DeVan, yeah. This isn't the end of the Carl Durrell era. I prefer to be an optimist. It's the start of the Mike Sanford era. Mike Sanford is their offensive coordinator. A young guy who, again, was a name mentioned when Arizona hired Kevin Sumlin all those years ago. Was seen, I believe he was the head coach at Western Kentucky, was seen as sort of a fast riser in the game and sort of hasn't. Got fired there and is now offensive coordinator at Colorado. If you look at, the Buffaloes have lost to TCU by 25, to Air Force, who I think is good, by 31, to Minnesota by 42, and to UCLA by 28.
Yeah.
There's no improvement. To me, it comes down to sort of buy-in and pride. You talk about how Arizona is not going to mention last year. None of the good players from Colorado's 2021 team are still on the team.
Yeah.
Or will be playing on Saturday. I think Arizona wins this game. I think that it's decisive. I've been hammering this point all year with you guys, which is I don't care what the spread is. I'm picking against Colorado. And had I gone to Vegas with that idea a month ago, I'd be a rich man right now, right? Because they have, I believe, everybody has covered on them all year long. Yep. So give me Arizona 41, Colorado 10. I think that this is a sort of a rare laugher and feel-good night for the Wildcats that they hope is a springboard heading into just what is going to be a meat grinder of the rest of Arizona's season. I don't want to scare you, Justin, because we do have to do these podcasts every week, but Arizona's upcoming schedule after this week: Oregon at home, Washington and Seattle, USC at home, Utah and Salt Lake City. Good Lord.
Yeah.
UCLA and the Rose Bowl, UCLA and versus Washington State, and those two teams are a combined 7-1 right now. Yeah. So,
and Arizona doesn't really win in LA often, so
Murderers Row.
It's going to be tough stretch for the Wildcats.
Yeah, I think Colorado has the worst point differential of any FBS team. They're at
so if you want to get rich.
They've been outscored 173-47.
Right. And again, I don't blame Carl Durrell. Same way I don't blame Kevin Sumlin. So I blame the guy who lined up and said, "Hey, Carl Durrell, here's $5 million or $4 million a year to coach our football team." Yeah. Right? I'm not sure Carl Durrell was a good choice from the beginning, and I'm not. I wonder sometimes what these ADs are thinking.
Okay, real quickly.
We got to end it here.
In their defense, didn't Didn't that coaching change happen in like February?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Right? I'm blanking on the name of the coach who left for Michigan State.
Mel
Tucker. Yeah. Mel Tucker left, and it was kind of like out of nowhere. So they were in scramble mode, and I think that was also like right around the time that the pandemic hit. So, I mean, it was a difficult situation. But as you say, Ryan, they haven't gotten better.
They had Darren Chiaverini, who was a graduate of the university and wanted the job, and decided that Carl Durrell was better.
Eric Bieniemy, Colorado head coach.
There we go.
He was getting into an argument with Patrick Mahomes on the sideline last week. Maybe he's like, you know what, Andy Reid's not leaving anytime soon. I need a head coach. He
hasn't been able to get a gig in the NFL. He's the all-time leading rusher, I think, right?
Yeah.
At Colorado. Great fit.
Yeah.
Let's make it happen.
All right, Arizona versus Colorado, 6:30 p.m. kickoff at Arizona Stadium. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at The Wildcaster and check out our work on Tucson.com and download the Wildcaster app for free off the App Store and Google Play. And don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review the Wildcast on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Thanks for listening.